Hi everybody, I'm Lacy Schoen, founder of Real Women, Real Success. This week we're going to be talking about how to promote yourself and why you should. And this is such an uncomfortable topic for so many women. You know, I know that sometimes it can feel like maybe you're bragging to talk about your accomplishments or something that you did that really was spectacular. And sometimes you even see in a professional environment a situation where a woman actually devalues a significant contribution, just laying it off to an accomplishment of the team or maybe to humility. Maybe she's thinking that to be humble, you have to downplay your successes. And the challenge with that we all will feel the results from is that it diminishes our value in a professional setting, whether it's individually or women overall. You know, part of my passion and my goal is to see more women at the top, at least women who want to be at the top. I've said many times that we're 50% of the population and 57% of college graduates, and yet we have 5% of corporate CEO leadership, 14% of government leadership. We only get 2.7% of venture capital, meaning that men get over 97%. So there's an imbalance there, and some of that is something that we can have an impact on by learning how to talk about our accomplishments and our achievements. You have to ask yourself, if you don't make people aware of what your accomplishments are, who is going to do that? You know, I spent a lot of time in my career waiting around for people to see the good that I was doing. And I realized, you know, people are busy. They're concerned with themselves. People have a weather system all around their life. And they're at the center of it. And every human being is like that. So to think that someone is going to put my accomplishments and recognition of me above myself doing that is not realistic. It just doesn't happen. And if you're blessed to have those people in your life that do recognize your accomplishments, good for you, but I'll bet you they're less than 1 or 2% of the entire base of people that you know, because it just isn't that common. You know, we talk about women's empowerment so much, and what I hope that you'll come to understand promoting yourself and educating people about your accomplishments, it's a way to take matters into your own hands. It's a way to let people know what you are capable of and how you can excel and how you can add value to their world. And that's really, really important for you to be able to do. It's a skill set that you need from the beginning rung all the way up to the top. So one of the things it's really common to talk about this, but one of the things that often doesn't get talked about is, what does that conversation look like? If it's going to be uncomfortable to out and out brag about ourselves, and I don't think that that's a good way to go at all, because it looks like ego talking, and it looks like you're trying to one-up others, and it usually doesn't go over well. Bragging doesn't go over well. So then what do those promoting educational discussions, what do they go like? How do they sound? And I just wanted to walk through with you 3 scenarios today in a way that you might approach talking to another person to let them know something you have done or an achievement that you have accomplished, and how that conversation might sound that might be a little more comfortable for you to think about. So let's take the first one, and this is one that we have conversations around all the time. I'm sure you've had friends that say, my spouse, my husband, my wife doesn't appreciate all that I do. And, you know, I'm really, really thankful that I am in a relationship now where me and my spouse definitely share what we do for each other and the accomplishments that we have towards the relationship. And I want to share with you what a conversation might typically sound like, because you might find it valuable in some of your personal and professional relationships. So let's say that my husband came home from work and I made him dinner, but I didn't just make him dinner, I made him his favorite dinner. And, you know, a lot of times if someone does something like that and the spouse comes home and has the dinner and doesn't really take note of it or doesn't really acknowledge that effort, it can become a problem. And again, go back to what we said before. People tend to live in their own space and their own world, mostly concerned with their issues. So here's how a conversation might sound before it gets to the point where one of the spouses is upset that the other didn't recognize the contribution. And it might sound a little bit like, hey, honey, as we're sitting down at dinner, I might say, I hope you're really enjoying this meal. It was really important to me to do this for you today. I want to continue to give as a spouse and go the extra mile. I know that's a key to having a thriving relationship. And I was thinking this morning when I got up after you left for work, what could I do really special for you today? And I thought, if I just get up a little bit earlier, I can accomplish these 2 or 3 things that would give me enough time to go to the grocery store today instead of eating out all the time like we normally do. And I got to thinking about how could I come up with a recipe that you would really like. And I really wanted to do that for you. So I was able to get the stuff done. I went to the store, I got all the ingredients, and it came out great. I was a little concerned, but it came out great. And I just wanted you to know that it was so important for me to do this for you today. I wanted you to walk through that door. I didn't want you to have to think about the money we would spend on a dinner. I didn't want you to have to think about cooking. And not only did I want you to be able to sit right down to an enjoyable dinner where you and I can just talk as we've been doing and enjoying each other's company, but I really wanted to go the extra mile and give you your favorite meal. And I really did think through that today, and you're so important to me, and our relationship is so important to me. So I just wanted you to know how much it meant to me to really plan and organize my day so I could do this for you. That's really hard to not have any kind of anything but a positive reaction to. And anytime that I have a discussion like that with my spouse, it always goes over well. And it's interesting because we sometimes don't know what our spouse goes through to try to give us what we want, or to try to contribute to the relationship. And sometimes running someone through the thought process and emotional process and how committed you are in trying to give or create some sort of value in someone's life really is an education process, and they'll appreciate it. So it's something that you should try to get comfortable doing. You can do that with your kids too. I do this with my kids, especially my daughter, to let her know how I really value her and I'm trying to contribute as much as I can, and the ways that I go out of my way because she's so important to me, and how I appreciate the opportunity to give to her. So that's the humility that you're looking for. When you appreciate the opportunity to be in the relationship, when you're really glad that you were able to contribute to someone's life. You're not bragging about, I'm so great, I put this dinner on the table and it's all about your ego. You're talking about giving to another human being. That's the kind of humility that you want to have, is the joy of giving to someone else or to an organization or to your boss or to a company. That's where that humility comes in. The humility is not diminishing your contribution and saying, oh, that dinner was nothing, or oh, that contribution was nothing. No, it was something. Own it and learn how to talk about it in such a way that you don't feel like you're bragging, but you're just educating the person on how important whatever it is to you, whatever your passion is around that. So that's one example. Example number 2, let's talk about maybe with your boss. I've seen it so many times in teams where there's some accomplishment of the team, and this happens so many times. One person on the team or a couple people on the team have put in way more effort, way more thought process, way more commitment than the other team members. And at the end, the project's done or the event's done or whatever it is, and the recognition goes to the whole team. And, I have had staff members in the past say, oh, team effort, when I know full well they've contributed a lot more. And I always have told them, don't tell me that you didn't do, more than anybody else. I'm not asking you to throw anybody under the bus, but own the very special role that you played in this success. Own it, because it's really important. If I wasn't paying attention, I'm not sure anybody else would, and you need to be able to talk about your accomplishments. So let's talk about that, the fallacy that the full team gets the credit. And there's plenty of instances where that is the case, but when you're trying to let someone know a specific accomplishment or contribution that you made, you don't have to throw the rest of the team under the bus to go ahead and educate your boss on the unique contribution that you made. So that conversation might sound a little bit like this. This is just one example. You can think through many others, but here's what sort of comes to mind for me right now. Sitting down with the boss and saying, I just wanted you to know while you were out last week, the team finished this event or this project, and it really came out well. And I was so excited about that and so committed to the outcome. And I wanted to just share with you what that experience was like for me, because from the very beginning, I knew I wanted to contribute as much as I could, because I am trying to grow myself and contribute as much as I can to the company. And I really wanted to see, how far can I take this? How far can I go with, maybe staying a little bit later and making sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that those finishing touches that take it from a good result to a great result were really there. And I wanted to give that commitment. And so here's some of the things I did. I stayed late on Wednesday for a couple hours and did a little bit of extra research, and I found out, fill in the blank. And then, someone was sick one day. I don't remember who it was, but I filled in for them and kind of did their part too, because had I not done that, we wouldn't have stayed on track. And it was so important for me to really own us staying on track along with the rest of the team. I really wanted to see us bring benefit to the company, and I didn't want it to fall behind. And then I did these 3 other things, and I was so appreciative of the opportunity to have that kind of a freedom within the team and to be able to have this experience of creating that success. And look how great these pieces and parts turned out within this project. And I was really proud to be able to contribute that to the company. And I know that that's important to you as my boss, and you can go on and on and on. There's a number of different ways that you can have that conversation, but I think you get the idea. And a lot of times you're going to tell your boss things that they don't know. And it's so appreciated by most supervisors who are not in the office all the time to actually know what goes on when they're not there. And again, I'm not suggesting you throw other team members under the bus. I'm simply saying that it's okay to talk about your unique contribution, especially if it was more or a more significant, even in your eyes, even if it's not more significant in someone else's eyes. Sharing that might be a learning opportunity, and it shows your commitment and your passion. And always share your passion in these things about seeing the organization succeed, seeing your boss succeed, seeing the company succeed. That's that humility again, and appreciating the opportunity. That's the direction you want to go in those conversations. Here's another idea for you, and this is a little more controversial, but it absolutely is something that you should consider if you're trying to build your influence and trying to advance. Let's say that the person that you want to influence is maybe a peer or someone it could be in a different organization. You're going to have to roll with me on this example, because you'll know circumstances and people that this would apply to in your own life. But I'm sure that you've had opportunity to stumble across the gossip circle. And I have had already done a video on how to avoid dysfunction in the workplace. And one of the ways that you avoid dysfunction is you avoid gossip. But I also talked about in that video the idea of the locker room leader, the person who isn't necessarily the boss but stumbles upon these conversations and actively shows leadership up and out of that diminished conversation. And so this example is sort of like stumbling upon a conversation like that and overhearing someone talk about another member of the team. Now, if the other member of the team is someone that's influential and someone you want to have a relationship with or and you want to better it, or they're influential in your success, or even if you just want to be a good Samaritan because you want to improve the quality of your work environment and the teamwork around you, you can step in and say, I don't think this is a fair conversation for you all to be having right now, because you're talking about someone when they aren't here. And I would always advocate that you go talk directly to that person. For whoever's battle this is, go talk to them directly, but this is not a productive conversation. That certainly is an environment that I want to work in, because if you're willing to do that to this person, you may be willing to do it to others, including me, and I just don't see any productivity in that. However, you can step in and say something like that. It's good to walk through things that you might say in a situation like that, so you don't let emotions take over, that it's just very matter of fact. That is always helpful. But let's talk about the conversation. You just did a wonderful thing. You shut down a dysfunctional conversation in the workplace. How are you going to tell that person that was absent from that? There are a lot of people that would hesitate to do that because it would seem like they were tattletaling or telling on someone else. And you want to think through how you word this to the other person, because the point is not going to be these people were talking nasty about you so much as it is, I had your back. And so I've actually done something like this before on a number of occasions and gone to the person and said, hey, I just wanted you to, know, be on the lookout. There was this conversation going on, and I think there might be a couple of people that want to talk to you about fill in the blank. I would feel free to reach out to maybe some people in this department or on the team, or maybe they'll come to you. I encouraged them to do that, but I wanted to share with you the conversation I had because you're important to me, and this workplace is important to me, and having functional relationships is important to me. And what I did is I just told them if they had any issues with you or your project or whatever direction you're going, then they ought to be going and talking to you rather than talking to each other and creating rumors and ill feeling and dysfunction in the workplace. And I just wanted you to know that I did that for you. I would do it again. And that's just how important having solid relationships in the workplace is to me. There isn't anybody that wouldn't appreciate that. Let's say it's the boss. Your boss would always appreciate that. Having the opportunity to try to mitigate that dysfunction and to add clarity. Sometimes people just aren't aware that maybe they could provide more clarity in the workplace, and that helps some of those discussions. So, women have intuition and the ability to read between the lines. So you'll know when you stumble upon the gossip conversation if it actually is a dysfunctional situation that is going to perpetuate because the people in it are dysfunctional, or if it was a legitimate concern that maybe just wasn't handled right because maybe people are a little bit naive, and people always fall into, very unseeming people fall into the gossip ring sometimes. So not always ill intent. So those are some ideas for you about how to talk about your accomplishments, your contributions, your value, your achievements. Of course, there's a number of other ways to do it, a number of other situations. If any of you would like to talk to me about a specific situation you have and talk through how you might approach it, I'd be glad to do it. My email is available down below, and I'd love to hear from you. But it really is so important that you start thinking about how you can promote your value and share with others the value you're bringing to their lives, and make sure you're sharing those things with the people who are influential in your success and your forward trajectory in the achievement of your goals. And if you can do that, you will get beyond a stumbling block that so many women have had in the workplace, which is letting people know about their achievements and capabilities. It's so empowering to take charge of that. Then you don't have to rely on anybody else. It's all about you, and that's the power position we want you in at Real Women, Real Success. So I hope that was helpful for you today. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe down below. I want you to go out there and have a great week. Always know I'm your biggest fan, and I'll see you next week.